Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the 2021 Believe in Bears. My name is Joe Christopoulos. Today's episode is brought to you by who else? BetOnline.ag. And look, BetOnline is where you should go to win all your money today, whether it's live bets during games or futures. For who you think will win the next championship, BetOnline is all the odds, news, and information for all your online sports betting needs. So what are you waiting for? Visit the website today or use your mobile device to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. So before the next big game, head on over to BetOnline and start playing today. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming into the pod. I am so excited. To all of you, welcome back to another season of Bears football. To all of you that have listened to the pod before, thank you so much for coming back and checking it out, because I have to introduce my brand new co-host here on the show. The man might be from the East Coast, but he has got some deep Chicago sports roots as well, and he also just might happen to be a Chicago legend in my eyes, because he was the man who did something that Father Time failed to do, which was tap on the shoulder of Brett Favre in 2010 and tell him, "You are no longer a quarterback." It is the Northwestern Wildcat alumni and former Chicago Bear, Fox 32's own Corey Wootton. What's up, Corey?
Joey, what's going on, my man? I feel like we've been talking a lot, and it's glad to finally have our first episode right here, and I'm excited to get into it, man.
I'm excited, man. This season's going to be, I think it's going to be really interesting, right? Things are going to go up and down. It's going to be a roller coaster. Things are going to change. I'm just super happy and thankful that I'm here with you on the ride, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited, baby. Yeah, let's get a ticket to this ride, baby. Let's go. Let's go.
Hop aboard, everybody.
Hey, football is back, right? Football is back, man. We've been watching throughout the COVID, the pandemic. We've been watching cherry spitting on ESPN. Come on. Right, that's what this is coming to.
I know. I did
football, right?
I did the Olympics, and I felt proud of myself for being a sports fan. I've done the Olympics. I've had my fill, but now, yeah, I feel that itch. I even feel that fantasy football itch a little bit. We're talking way too much. We're overreacting. So let's overreact to some preseason football today for sure. Okay. Let's just bring the listeners in a little bit, and let's just kind of walk through a little get to know Corey just real quick. Just tell them about your journey growing up in New Jersey, Northwestern Chicago Bears. Just talk a little bit about your journey.
You know, from Jersey. Yeah, you heard me. Nah. So I born and raised in Rutherford, New Jersey, right by Giant Stadium. So I grew up like 5 minutes from Giant Stadium. Grew up in there, small town. Everybody always says it has like that. What's that movie with Jim Carrey where he was in like Perfect Town?
Me, Myself, and Irene? Or is it more like Truman Show? Is it like Truman Show?
Truman Show.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, everyone's always like, man, your town seems like Truman Show. You know, everybody knows each other, you know, white picket fences, you know, everybody's, you know, just everybody's super chipper all the time. You see the same people at the bagel shop, you know, the barber shop, etc. So really small town feel, but it was great growing up there. You know, had a great group of friends, and it was great growing up in a place like New Jersey, and especially the food. Like that's where I get my food essential. That's why I'm such a foodie, is because all the food I was introduced to being in New Jersey, you know, Italian, like anything you pick it, you name it, just being so close to New York City. So I really loved growing up in Jersey.
Hard to date in that town because everybody knows everybody, or Corey Wootton did all right as a team?
You know, I mean, I was a late bloomer, you know, I'll put it that way. So, you know, I was focused on sports, you know, maybe in middle school, you know, a little bit, but I always kind of focused on sports. But yeah, I had a great experience. And so, you know, let's walk into high school days, right? So I didn't go to my hometown high school. I went to a football powerhouse, Don Bosco Prep. So they were pretty much kind of like a Mount Carmel where you're from. You know, really good football school, put out a lot of people. And yeah, my senior year, we had 9 or 10 D1 guys. So wow. It was pretty incredible. And in our division that we played against a bunch of NFL guys. Like Brian Cushing was one of our rivals. Jim Dre, who ended up playing, I think, 8 or 9 years in the league. The McCourty brothers, Devin and Jason McCourty. Junior Gillette, that played for you know, Saints for a bunch of years in the Redskins. We played against a bunch of NFL guys in there. So it was like, people really think New Jersey is a basketball state, but it's really a football state. You know, Jabril Peppers, Rashawn Gary, all those people are from that North Jersey cycle. So yeah, the football was great. And when we were there, we were, you know, number 2 in the nation my junior year. We were always top 10. So that was before you kind of played the ranked schedule that they know of today. But it was a great experience. And then from there, I ended up getting a scholarship to right down the street from you, Northwestern University. So I had 10 other offers, but going on my visits, I felt like Northwestern was the best fit for me. So I wanted a school that was good in academics and played in a great conference and was competitive. And I feel like Northwestern was school. So it was kind of between them and Boston College. So I ended up picking Northwestern after going on a visit, meeting the guys, and I feel like I gelled with them the most, and I feel like I would fit in there the most. Some of the schools I went to, Louisville and some of these other schools, it's not a knock, but some people, you could just tell the type of people they were recruiting. And this, I think football was end all be all for them. And I think at Northwestern, people were thinking about, hey, I'm gonna try to make the league, but if not, I got a bigger picture. And that really, meshed well with me. And that's why I decided to go there.
That's really interesting. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Evanston, also grew up in Wilmette too. So the Northwestern Wildcats were my college football team. You know what I mean? Ryan Stadium was my place to go. And yeah, I love that you say that, because maybe I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. You're really close to the city, and you've got all these different also like professionals that are like, working and getting educated also at Northwestern. I'm pulling it up right now too. Pretty nice career you had for yourself here. 4 career interceptions. I'm going to want to hear about that at some point, about the 4 career interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, I got some hands, man.
Yeah, okay.
Sleep on it. I used to play tight end, man. That's how I got on my offers. Northwestern
really?
was the only school that wanted me as a defensive end.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And then I'm seeing 10 sacks in 2008, 5.5 last 6 games. Talk about in 2008. You've mentioned also previously in other articles about, the role that like defensive coordinator Mike Hankwitz had when he came over. So what was it? Was it a light bulb for you athletically at the time, or was he able to, like, through his coaching, unlock something too that was a perfect match?
Yeah, so Mike Hankwitz, evil genius is what they call him. I mean, one of the best defensive coordinators I ever played under. And when he came in, he completely revamped the defense. We went from a read defense, and at the time we were playing a 4-3, not a 3-4. So you know how 3-4 are, really big, like 300-pound defensive ends, but we weren't. We were built, 260, 270, and they were asking us to do what a 300-pound would do at 260, 270. So it just didn't work out the best. We were kind of, slow off the ball. We were reading off them as opposed to attacking. So that was the biggest thing he implemented, that attacking style defense. We're going to get off the football. We're going to cause penetration. We're going to cause havoc. We're going to get sacks, TFLs, disruptions. In that first year, I mean, we started out hot. I think we had like 6 sacks the one game, 5 sacks the other game, bunch of turnovers. And it was just like, since then, the defense really turned around at Northwestern, because that was kind of the weak point. And you're familiar with it when Brett Bazinet was there, and Noah Heron and all those guys. Offense was the mainstay, right? That's where all the NFL players were coming from. And then you saw the shift in it, and you see the defensive success. And even today, you see a lot of guys on that side of the football now playing in the NFL. So it's good to see.
After a great career at Northwestern, you get drafted in the 4th round by the Chicago Bears. I'm going to save the Brett Favre story for right now, but I kind of want you to comment just a little bit. I do want to hear, like, overall what your experience was with the Chicago Bears, but I want to go to that 2012 season a little bit. You had 7 sacks that year. I remember that year pretty fondly. That was the year I think you guys started off 7-1. Jay takes a hit against the Texans, and the ceiling falls apart after that. Jay comes back, and I'm pulling up right now. I think he only averaged 203 passing yards after that, threw 6 picks after that Texans game. Just talk about your experience in the Bears, and specifically that season, because, man, sitting at 7-1, I think as a Bears fan, I was thinking Super Bowl. Were you thinking that too?
Oh, that's what I thought for sure, because my rookie year, 2010, that's when we were 1 game away from the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship against Aaron Rodgers and BJ Raji. When he hit the hula on us, it just killed us. But that's what I was thinking that year, because we started out so hot. I mean, our defense was just running on all cylinders. I mean, the takeaways, the sacks. That year it was like myself, Henry Melton, and Israel Donajay, Julius Peppers, Urlacher, Briggs, Nick Roach. I mean, Tim Jennings had an awesome season that year. I think he had 10 or 11 picks, something crazy like that. Peanut Tillman, like, our defense top to bottom was amazing. And the way we performed that year was unbelievable. But, it's just like, it seems like nothing can ever be two-sided with the Bears, right? Like one side has to do good, other side can't do as good. That's what it always seems like.
Always.
And that's what it was. And then the following year, the offense balls out, and we're one of the worst defenses in the league. It's like you can't pick. So, but that year, I just feel like we were playing on a different level. And if the offense could have been what it was in 2013, I mean, if we combine those, that would have been unbelievable. And then people forget the next year in 2013. Rob Marinelli, Lovie's not there, so we're trying to run the same scheme with a different guy. You know, it's not his scheme, but he's trying to run it because of the success we had, and it just didn't work out right.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, I don't really want to get in the game of like you dragging Trestman or anything like that. That's a really easy game to play, but do you feel like that switch over from 2012 to 2013 because Lovie was so – I mean, that was his baby, defense, takeaways. I mean, that was his mantra. That was, you know, his discipline. Do you feel like that they just maybe paid a little bit less attention? Sometimes the focus goes in a little bit different area on the team, and things just kind of maybe sort of fall apart a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think there's certain coaches that people will really buy into and do anything for. Like I feel like Rod Marinelli and Lovie, those are the type of coaches. And this is not a knock on Trestman or Mel Tucker anyway. I thought they did a great job. They came in, they gave it their all. But I feel like Rob Marinelli and Lovie, everybody just on the defense loved them so much and would do any, like run through a brick wall. And I feel like that's how programmed he had us, like, you know, discipline, you know, accountability. And it was just like everything was just running on all cylinders. And then you take them away, and you know, it's kind of like your, you know, favorite teacher at school, or you know, you don't look at things the same way. And I feel like that's kind of, you know, we didn't focus on the same things that they did. So I think it was just, you know, we're like, we basically have the same personnel except Urlacher. You know, Urlacher, a great player, and it's hard to, you know, replace him. But we pretty much had the same personnel, but we just weren't the same. Like it just seemed like, I don't know if you remember the last game of the season when we played the Packers, right? When
Randall Cobb game,
they had that last. Exactly, when Randall Cobb went deep and he beat everybody.
Which to be fair, Jay threw a tutty at the end of that quarter to put us up, right? And if we had won that game, Jay is a hero, right?
Exactly, he'd be a hero. But in that game, I don't know if you remember, there was a play where there was a fumble, right? And nobody picked up the ball at all. And that's something I'm talking about, the mentality not transferring over. Because if Marinelli and Lovie would have been there, that would have never happened. We always scoop and scored every ball if it was close. And that was just in practice. We let stuff creep in practice. And that's what we saw. And that's a big indicator of that, because they fumbled and we should have picked that up and scooped and scored. And we missed out on an opportunity. And that could have been the difference between winning and losing that game.
We're going to get onto some training camp stuff that's happening right now, but I want to ask you one more question just about your Bears career and ask about Lovie, because Lovie's kind of polarizing in Chicago. He won so many games. He took us to a Super Bowl, almost took us to 2, and yet people still like to say, you know, make fun of him for Rex is my quarterback, and they couldn't find any offense. Can you just kind of explain a little bit to fans who I always felt like Lovie made it a choice to maybe be a little bit short, dry, a little evasive during the post game, right? Don't let anybody know what's going on inside your locker room. Talk about like how important that is for a coach to kind of do that, and why it maybe lends itself to fans not liking a guy like that.
Yeah, Lovie just had that personality where he was very brief about things, didn't really go into detail, and he's a very private person. You know, I've known you know, his son for a while now. We went to college together. So I've known them for a while, and he's a very private person. And I think he's the type that doesn't ever want to give anybody, you know, that locker room material where you say something and then all of a sudden it's posted up on there or whatever, even inside our own locker room, right? If he badmouthed anybody or said they need to do better, it was just always like he took accountability for everything. And I admire that, because as a coach, you want to be the guy that takes all the blame. You don't want your players to have to deal with that, even though, you know, they're the ones playing the game. So that was commendable of them. But, you know, people want the honesty. They want you to throw people under the bus. They want you to say that it was Cutler's fault, it was this person's fault, and this person missed this pick, and Chris Conti did that. You know, people just try to get into stuff like that. And no one person loses a game, right? It's a team game, and, you know, all the way from the coaches. And but I just love how Lovie took accountability of every situation and took the pressure off players. And that's the type of coach you want to play for. You know, a guy that always points at himself and not at you.
And what's so interesting about that is as entertaining as those coaches can be, they often aren't in the game for very long. So if you want to like have, like a career, sometimes it's nice. It's a good idea to protect your guys. Let's jump in a time machine. Let's go into the modern day, 2021. Ooh. The Chicago Bears, man. Here we are. We're one preseason game in. I think we want to get to the quarterback situation in just a second, but can you just talk about what's kind of going on with some of these guys right now, whether you're a veteran, whether you're a rookie? You got one preseason game under your belt. If you're a starter, you haven't played a lot. Where are these guys? What are their mindset right now? And when do you kind of get to the point as a player where you're like, I need to start getting ready for week one, like right now?
So from experience, the guys that are the veterans, that are starters, that are going to play a lot, rotational players and stuff like that, they're just trying to get healthy for the season. And that's the biggest thing that every organization like the Akeem Hicks, Khalil Macks, Robert Quinns, Roquan Smiths, they know what they can do on the field, right? It's just a matter of getting them healthy to the regular season, because majority of injuries happen in the preseason. So now they're taking a game away, starting to make things better. And I think coaches are realizing, like, listen, we don't need to play them on Sunday. We know what they can do, right? Like Akeem Hicks, we know what he can do. We know what Khalil Mack can do. A preseason game or two is not going to make or break them. But the guys that are, maybe fighting for a spot on the roster or a position in the rotation on defensive end, they need to showcase what they can do and put their best foot forward. And I really feel like, I think the practices matter more so than the games, in my opinion, because just the vibe you get is like, yeah, obviously you have to play well in the games, but you having a good game and having bad practices, like, it rubs coaches the wrong way, especially when you're younger, right? If you're a guy that, has proven himself, it doesn't matter either way. But if you're a young guy, they want to see consistency. They want to see, oh, well, you're not going to bring it every practice and we're not going to have you play right away. So you're not going to give us practice, but, you're not going to play in the game. So what are you really giving me? Yeah. They want consistency in all aspects of it. They want to show that you're a pro, that you approach the game right. And so I feel like that's the biggest thing, what they want to see from a lot of these young guys, that you're bringing it day in and day out. And, people put a lot of stock on preseason games, and it does matter at times, right? I think a lot of it is like the combine, right? People put so much of an emphasis on that, but it's like your body of work every day and day in and day out. If you're whooping people in practice, if you're doing the right things, if you're showcasing your talent, right? If you have a preseason game that's okay, but you held your own or something, they'll hold that higher, I think, than someone that's just like has one good preseason game and that's it. So
wait, are you telling the Bears fan right now that the Justin Fields first preseason game wasn't the greatest achievement in Chicago Bears history right now? Is that what we're saying?
I think people put a little too much stock on. I think it's a good sign though.
No,
for a quarterback. Sure. I think quarterback that has a lot of weight in it, because think about it. You're in control of the whole offense, right? They're looking at you. They're seeing how your checks are, how your reads are, how calm you are, how you're able to, go through reads and progressions in a newer offense that you're not used to, and nervous, like you're a first round pick now. They put all the marbles for you. They traded up for you. You're the big dog now, right? And I know they're saying Andy Dalton is the guy or whatever. I'm not buying that.
Dude, here's my thing. Andy Dalton is like the opening band at a concert, right? Like, and you kind of like the band, and maybe you a couple of songs, and you're like, look, I'm going to listen to this band. I'm going to drink my cocktail. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to get some food. I don't care if I miss the opening band because we're all waiting for the main headliner. That's kind of where I'm at with Andy Dalton. Good guy, but let's be honest.
I think he's a lot like Nick Foles, right? It's a guy that we brought in to if it doesn't work out with Fields, or in the case last year with Trubisky, we'll have a guy that can come in and play well at times. Maybe he's not going to light him up like a Russell Wilson or something like that, but it's a guy that can manage a game for us if we need to. We know he's not going to mess things up in certain situations. So I feel like it's a safe play. Like all teams are doing that. They're getting a guy that's been a starter, has had a couple good seasons, but they know that they're smart enough to manage and control a game if need be.
So be honest with the listeners right now. What did you think of Justin Fields? What did you like? What did you didn't like? And just talk a little bit more about what you think the importance of that game is in the coach's eyes versus what you're talking about, which is about stacking practices.
Yeah, I think with him, like I said, the quarterback position, I think it matters what you showcase in the game, right? And it was a limited role, but I feel like he looked so confident. And that's what I love to see from young quarterbacks, right? And I think that's the difference between a lot of people. Like I've always said, there's one guy that I saw as a rookie that I was like, wow, he is so poised. That's Teddy Bridgewater. So I played with him in Minnesota his rookie year. And I've never seen somebody so poised in the pocket. Like never looked uncomfortable, never looked out of rhythm. And that's how Justin Fields looked, on during the game on Saturday. He just looked comfortable. And this is a new scheme for him. There's a lot of pressure, a lot mounting up to this because he had heard it all week leading up to it. Oh, Justin Fields, his debut. How is he going to do? And he shined. He was 14 of 20, 142 yards passing, rushing touchdown, rushed for 33 yards, threw a passing touchdown.
Messing with the defense a little bit, right? Kind of like manipulating outside the pocket, doing the crossbody, and then having the one guy bait him. Like I had a tackle and then tossing over his head.
So let me ask you, who did that remind you of? A little bit of that Patrick Mahomes, a little bit, right?
A little bit like Mahomes. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I completely agree with you because I'll never remember when I first watched Dak Prescott play in the preseason, and he's sitting there and he's just bouncing on his feet like a boxer. And I'm like, man, this guy doesn't have a care in the world. What the hell is going on? Exactly. And it played itself out in the years to come, and he becomes this great player. And Justin Fields is the same way where, as a Bears fan, I feel like, and look, we're gonna talk about Mitch in the first couple episodes here, but we're gonna kind of move on from him. But the thing with Mitch a little bit was, and it was a compliment, he had a quick twitch, right? Or he would see one read, boom, boom, and then bounce out of the pocket, and I would always be like, wow, he's got great energy. But it kind of maybe more a nuanced take on it would be, I don't know if he had the confidence or the trust to stay in there, stay with your reads, stay with your progressions no matter what happens. He was always trying to do the right thing at the right time, and Justin just seems like he knows what he wants out of almost every single play. That's what's really promising for me.
I think he's more of a complete quarterback, right? He can do it all. They're very similar as far as their skill set, right? Yeah. Can throw a good ball, have great feet, are fast, athletic, but you could just tell the different level. And I think that comes with experience, right? Justin Fields has played games like Mitch Trubisky was at Ohio State against the best competition out there. I think the Big Ten and the SEC are two of the best conferences. So he's been able to be in tight games where stuff. Trubisky never really got that experience in college. And that's why I was a little confused. Like I could understand if in his short career in college, he just lit it up and everything was, but I get very weary of drafting guys off of, especially a quarterback position, off a limited showing, like defensive ends, stuff like that. You look how it's Daniel Hunter, right? He played, I believe, 3 games in college or something, like started 3 games in college. But that ended up being a good thing because I think a defensive end, you can teach that a lot more, hand settings up than you can being a quarterback. Understanding defenses, that's something you either do or you don't. Like it's not something I believe that you can just learn overnight. And some people like Tom Brady, et cetera, Deshaun Watson, some of those guys, Russell Wilson, they've known that since the beginning, since they've been a quarterback in high school. They know how to read defense. Trubisky, I never felt like really knew how to understand defense. And there's art to it. And that's why you see the different quarterbacks, i.e. Aaron Rodgers. He knows what's happening before it's going to happen. And those are the great players.
And you're talking about like physical skills. You can have physical skills, you can learn technique, but like you're talking about that feel for the game a little bit. And we saw that, I think, with Justin Fields in that first preseason game. My whole take on it, too, as well, was that it was kind of a perfect scenario where the Bears fans got what they wanted and got what they needed. The throws that we're talking about, hitting Jesse James. Oh, by the way, they did a tracker on it. They clocked Justin Fields at 20.3 miles per hour. The third fastest dude in the preseason behind KJ Hamler on the Broncos. That's pretty fast. I'm just going to say it's pretty fast.
Fields is an athlete, man. Fields is an athlete. Like, yeah. I think people sleep on how fast he really is.
I mean, dude, I was actually shocked about it because he's just so big, and just when he leaves those linebackers in the dust, you're like, okay, we got something here. But I feel like we got something that Bears fans needed, which is just kind of understanding that he is a rookie. Talk about that a little bit, because the first couple series probably we're going to have that delay of game if Javon didn't jump off sides. I don't want to be nitpicky here, but could have probably threw that interception. You know what I mean? When he lofted up to Jesse James when he fell down a little bit. I'm not trying to say that these are bad things. I'm just trying to say that this is a learning curve. And for every Bears fan that wants this guy to start right away and be amazing, he could start right away, but maybe the amazing might be a little bit more in the making.
They're going to be very cautious here. And in my opinion, I think he should start day one. I think he's ready for it. I think anything's going to be a learning experience. But as a good coach, and I think the best coaches in the league, they understand this, that you call your plays based on what your QB is comfortable with, right? And i.e. Andy Reid has always done that, right? He's had the show, even when Matt Nagy was in Kansas City. He calls the plays like when Alex Smith was there, right? That's a guy they dumped to the side. Oh, he's nothing after Colin Kaepernick. It's it. His career's over. He's a game manager. That's it. And then he goes to Kansas City and is one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league, right? Because Andy Reid catered that offense to him. And I think this is what Matt Nagy should do with Justin Fields, right? And I think, people say, well, they tried that with Trubisky to get him. He's a different quarterback than Trubisky. He can do a lot more than Trubisky, especially throwing the football. So I think you get him on the move, you get him using his feet a little bit, and he's shown that he's smart enough to know when to get out of bounds, not take these hits. And that's something Trubisky at times struggled with. Like, okay, he hurt his shoulder that one time. Just knowing when to play another play, especially as a quarterback, right? You don't want to take any hits, get out of bounds, do the right thing. So I think that's what Matt Nagy needs to do if Justin Fields is the starter day one. I think he should be, but they might be cautious about this. They might be trying to ease him into the situation. But at that point, you draft up for a guy. I think he showed it. He'll have another opportunity to showcase what he can do. And if he lights it up again, green light. I think week one, you say, hey, you're our guy. Let's lead us.
I love this. So here's my question. So you think Justin Fields should start week one?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about. So I've heard from other players before in the past too about how the quarterback position is so unique on a football team. And you said it takes a team to win and lose a football game, but the quarterback position, there's just something, I don't know, mystical about that position. As a former defensive lineman, defensive end in the league, how much did it mean to you, or how much do you think it means to this Bears team right now that, hey, we know who our quarterback is? Like, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to my co-host from last year, Cameron Lee. He said the worst thing that the Bears did was make it a competition between Foles and Trubisky last year because they didn't know who it was going to be moving forward. And Nagy didn't even know because he went to Foles and then he came back to Trubisky again. It's that 1 foot in, 1 foot out. As a former player, those guys in the locker room right now, do you think they kind of want to know just who is the guy, and let's rock and roll and then let's work?
Yeah, I think they want to know for sure. And I think they've been, from the beginning saying Andy's our guy to start off with, and we're going to see how it goes. But I think as time goes on, and especially if Justin Fields continues to light it up, especially in the next preseason game, I think they're going to be like, Coach, come on. The kid's ready.
Look,
the kid's ready.
Look over here. Yeah.
And
Andy's going to go.
I think that's
he's right.
Exactly. Like I feel like with a situation like Jared Goff a couple of years ago, I feel like they were really hesitant to play him because they didn't feel like he was ready. But I think this is a completely different situation. I think he's a guy that's ready to play, but it's just about what they're wanting to do, because I think they have so much in their mind about how the Trubisky situation worked out. I think they worry about that, but I think this is a completely different situation. I think they just missed the ball on it. Some people just miss picks. I mean, a lot of people had Trubisky high on the board, right? It's just the Bears wanted him more. And hey, who knows if he would have went to a different situation, the Patriots or something like that, who knows, when Tom Brady left, he could have been in there. But the situation for the Bears, it just didn't work out. And that's, you can't be nervous about what if or what that. If somebody's ready to play, you just got to give them the green light. You can't be worried about this, that, because there's learning curves and learning experiences that young guys have to learn. And there's been a couple guys that have started since day one. Russell Wilson was a guy, right? He was a young guy. He was able to play, and they kind of threw him into the fire. And he did really well with it. And I think Justin Fields is that same type of guy. And I'm just hoping that they will start him week one, because I know after a certain point, they're going to take Andy Dalton out anyway and put Justin Fields in. But I hope he's the guy from day one. And I want to see him shine, because you playing for the Bears and you've been a lifelong Bear fan, you know how much the city has been waiting for a guy. I'm not talking a guy like the next Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer, Jim McMahon, great, but they want that guy, that next one that everyone talks about. And I think Justin Fields can be that guy.
I don't know what to do with myself, Corey. Seriously, we're talking about when I was watching him and he's got that confidence and that calm in the pocket. I'm like, I'm terrified right now. I haven't seen that before my whole life. I'm not really sure what to do with myself.
Yeah, you're like, defense.
Yeah, seriously, yeah. It's like, let's pin him back. Ooh, they're backed up now. Oh, we got great field position. Those were the things that I would constantly be like, now we're cooking with. And you're bringing up such a great point. And honestly, I'm a little bit on the whole, if Fields sat for a couple weeks and Dalton gets it going and Fields learns what it's like the day in, week out of install and stuff, I'd be okay with that. But you're convincing me right now, and you're bringing up a really good point because basically different player, different situation, different skill set, right? And I also feel like with Trubisky, and maybe this is on Nagy a little bit, is there was kind of, I don't want to say that they didn't get along, but interpersonally, Nagy and Trubisky, I think maybe it wasn't a great mix in the end, where Trubisky by the end was saying, hey, roll me out, let me do all this other stuff. And I guarantee you in the film room, Nagy was going, hey, I drew up this play to be a 35-yard pop, and you checked it down, you know what I mean? And, like, we're leaving plays on the field, and they kept going back and forth. I don't think that's going to be the issue with Justin at all, and I don't hope Nagy doesn't compare his relationship with Trubisky to how he works with Fields and what he challenges him with offensively.
I don't think he will at all. I think it's such a difference because look at the situation, right? Matt Nagy comes in, it's not the guy that he picked, so he's got to work with this guy Trubisky. So I think this is a completely different situation. I guarantee Nagy had the final say in picking Justin Fields. That's my guy. I want him. And I think it's a different situation. And, I always say, I think the biggest thing that we had when 2012 and 2013 was we had a different GM and all that. So Jerry Angelo was there. Then Phil Emery came in, and he has his guys, right? And people feel certain ways about guys they draft and they pick compared to guys they don't. There's no rhyme or reason. But you don't play well, and there starts to become this discord between you guys. I think it was just a bad relationship with him, like you were saying. And then he's like, it's probably not even my guy anyway. In the back of his mind. Obviously, he's got to structure everything. But I think he got so tired of him after a while. He was like, I'm pulling him. When he put Nick Foles in the game against the Falcons, I think you could just tell he was so mad at Trubisky. He was just like, I'm done. You could just tell visibly after he threw that one pick, he's like
looking for the excuse. Yeah. He was like,
he was like this. Get him out of there. You see him. Get him. And that was, you could just tell like it was just a lot of years of frustration. That Nagy was dealing with, because he was trying to do everything and do this and that. But I just feel like he was just like, he's not the guy for us at some point. And
looking for an excuse. And look, man, we'll have a great conversation about the politics in the NFL of my guy versus their guy some other day. Trust me. And I'm sure you got plenty of stuff to say about it because most former NFLers do. Let's take a quick break to talk about our brand new sponsor here on Bet on Chicago, Balance 7. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but apparently former NBA player Lamar Odom may be returning to professional basketball in Spain soon. I was recently reading a press release about how he started taking a pH balancing alkaline supplement called Balance 7, and that has helped him bounce back from his hospitalization in 2015. Quote Lamar Odom, I have an enormous amount of energy, which is good for me. It's important when working out. I always need energy to level up, and I couldn't agree more with Lamar. And after watching him fight Aaron Carter in July's celebrity boxing match, I think it's safe to say that Balance 7 is working for him. Now here's the cool thing. We've got a promotion running with Balance 7 right now where if you go to their website, balance7.com, use the code BLEAV, B-L-E-A-V, at checkout, you'll receive a free 4-ounce bottle of My Smooth Skin with any purchase of Balance 7 products. That product retails at $13.99, so I'd say you're getting a pretty good deal right there. So what are you waiting for? Head to balance7.com, use the code BLEAV, B-L-E-A-V, at checkout, and get in on this promotion while supplies last. I know I will, and if it worked on him, it can also work for you too. Balance7.com. Now back to the pod. But I do want to ask you, let's move over real quick. Scale of 1 to 10. We're heading towards the second preseason game right now. What is your level of concern, 1 to 10, with the offensive line?
It's a big concern, right? Yeah. They draft Tevin Jenkins in there to shore up that left tackle position with Charles Leno leaving. and then he's banged up during training camp, right? And then you got some other guys over there that are fighting for spots. Got Afadi came in, but he's more of a right tackle. He's not supposed to be a left tackle at all. And that's why they signed Jason Peters, to shore up that position if Jenkins can't play. The thing is, Jason Peters, I played against him, arguably one of the best left tackles to play the game, but he's older now. Like he's had a lot of injuries, and I'm sure he could come in.
He's older than me, dude. He's older than me. That's how I know when I'm allowed to say the dude's old when he's older than me now. I'm 37 now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. In football years, that's old. That's like, football years like dog years, man. So yeah, he's old in the game. I think, what is he, almost 20 years? I believe he came out, I think, in 2000.
Yeah, 20 or 20. Maybe his 19th or 20th year in the NFL. Yeah. A lot of Pro Bowls too.
Exactly. But I think it's more just to shore up the depth of the position, more so than anything.
And also, is it fair to say, hey, Jason, can you get us to October?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
if they need him, because I think he can with this type of offense, right? It's not the traditional type drop back, 5-step, 7-step drop like Mike Martz, where you need an Orlando Pace lockdown, or you need Jason Peters in his prime, to block. So I think it's something that he could be able to do. He's a good athlete. I think he's a little past his prime and on the tail end of the career, but I think if needed, he could probably go in there and like you said, give you a couple games, get you through. Some chip help here and there to help him out if need be. He's a smart guy. He knows, and then he can mentor these young guys on the offensive line. And I think that's more so than anything. This is what you always see in the NFL. You see guys on the tail end of their career that are trying to hang on, and they go to a situation where they can play maybe for a year, a little bit here or there, or start for the year, or be a swing tackle, swing guard, but mostly to mentor the younger guys, because they're like, this guy was one of the best to ever do it. Like Orlando Pace, unbelievable player. His last year he played for the Bears, and that's kind of what you see. It was to come in and fill a role because they know he could do it, but he's on the tail end of his career, and people just want that in their locker room. A guy that's like won Super Bowls, is a Hall of Famer, a Pro Bowler. People just love that knowledge, and the young guys, they love it because Jason Peters is coming in there and everyone's going to be like a sponge and soak up because like, this guy was one of the best, 9-time Pro Bowler, will probably be in the Hall of Fame one day. I don't know if he'll be a first ballot, but I think he'll be in the Hall of Fame one day for sure.
Yeah, that's a great call just on the off-the-field type stuff. And also keep in mind, Bears fans, too, as well, as we move further, other teams are going to be making cuts. There's different ways to fill out your depth on the offensive line and find different guys that can come in. And Juan Castillo, obviously, I'm sure is already looking at those dudes now as we speak. That'll be a topic that we are going to be bringing up more as the regular season gets closer. But I do want to switch over to the defense, man. Let's go to your bread and butter. I just want to talk about, what are you excited about for this defense heading into 2021? What's got you excited? Is there a player? Is it Sean Desai? Is there maybe an X-factor player that we're not thinking about? What's got you pumped about the defense?
I think there's one player, and I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but we can talk about it now. Robert Quinn. Right?
Oh, let's do it. Yes.
Let's do it. Let's just dive full into it, because I know that was supposed to be something we were talking about. Let's just get into it, because that's a guy I'm excited to see, right? You look at the big contract he signed, 5 years, $70 million. We're expecting him opposite Khalil Mack to really go off, because the year before with the Cowboys, he had 11 sacks, looked great. Looked like looked with
his pressure percentage was one of the highest in the NFL. So all the little geek peripheral stats like flesh themselves out too.
Exactly. So I think last year we just didn't see that sack production, right? And he had a decent production season. I mean, he was top 10 as far as disruptions, Pro Football Focus. I mean, he had hits, he had pressures, he just didn't have the sack total, right? And when you're opposite Khalil Mack, the attention he gets, right? And then you got Akeem Hicks in the middle. You're thinking, this guy's going to go off this year. And he just didn't, right? He was banged up with the ankle thing early on. And I think he, at certain points, for whatever reason, things don't always go, whether it was motivation, this, that, the other. But I know he's been hearing it all off season. Oh, Robert Quinn, he's not who he was. And I don't think that. I think he's still got the burst. I still think he's got that juice. I think he will lead the team in sacks this year.
Woo-hoo.
I think so. I'm calling it. I love to make these predictions, but I think as a competitor, I think he's just so disappointed. Like, even though he knows he didn't play that bad in the scheme of things, but for what Robert Quinn, the name that he's amassed in this league, to have 2 sacks, in a season where you're opposite Khalil Mack, I think that's going to bother him. And I think that's going to motivate him. And I would be shocked if he doesn't have double digits or leads the team in sacks.
I love it, dude, because I was going to try and shock you, and I was going to say 20.5 sacks over under with Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn. I was going to say over this year.
I think over.
And I think a lot of people love banging on him because, he got paid and he came in and we obsess over sacks. But, man, I'll tell you, so I got the opportunity last year to watch the All-22 for the first time. I'm not an expert. I'm trying to learn. But I watch a game like Carolina, and they get up to that 10-0 lead right off the bat. And if you watch that game, Robert Quinn is a destructor. He literally gets right in the face. The reason why they got that pick 6 early was because Robert Quinn does a slant on the inside. I'm going to say it wrong, but inside run, gets right in Teddy's face, and it makes it happen right away. And those are effective, productive plays that, dude, aren't sacks, but they led to points. So if you're Robert Quinn, maybe last year, maybe Bilal Nichols gets to the quarterback a little bit faster because they're paying attention to him. But Eddie Goldman's back. You still have Akeem Hicks, who's now probably playing for a contract. He wants to get one more bite at the apple. Khalil Mack, for all accounts, is having a great training camp right now. I'm with you, man. Robert, and look, we can go on and on. Roquan Smith coming into his own, fully in his prime right now. We have the makings of. We've been overhyped in past seasons. Are we being underhyped in terms of the Bears' defense of how we're going to get after the quarterback, or is it a little too early to say?
I think they are, just because of how last year went as a whole. It was just a frenzy at times, right? Because we didn't see the same defense, certain games stopping the run. And I think that's the biggest thing. Where certain sack numbers weren't there, it's because of stopping the run. At times they really struggled to stop the run, and that's been the biggest staple of the Bears defense, right? If you can't stop the run as a defense, you can't pin your ears back and rush and be in those favorable situations where you possibly have a 5-step drop. That's how you get sacks, right? Everything in the league nowadays is quick tempo. Let's get it out. But usually, when you have that tight coverage, that's what buys you a second, right? But if you're 3rd and short all day, you kind of got to pick and choose how tight your coverage is and whatnot, and how quickly you're able to get to the quarterback.
Well, and on top of that, too, I think the Bears actually on 3rd down were at least top 5 for most of the year last year.
Yep.
But I think they didn't bring the opposing team to enough 3rd downs. I think, like you're saying,
exactly.
They were getting 1st downs on 2nd downs. I know that's always a problem when we play a guy like Aaron Rodgers. That issue always kind of creeps up a little bit. Can you talk about, what you're feeling right now? I think a lot of people like to point towards the secondary. Are you optimistic about the secondary right now? I know there was some physicality issues a little bit about those guys maybe, getting in the box and making some tackles. How are you feeling about Kendall Vildor versus Desmond Trufant? And do you think that unit as a whole is going to be okay?
Yeah, I feel good about them. I think, Trufant and Kendall, I think they're going to do great back there. I think Eddie Jackson, is going to be great, as he always is. But I think that the tone of the defense is the front 7. I think that's what sets the tone of everything. I think everybody else in the back half will be good, because I think they're going to be so disruptive in that front 7. And I think that's going to be the staple of a team. And you look at just the past of any successful team defensively, right? Starting from like the Giants, in 07, that's what really is fond of me. Like Michael Strahan, O.C. Umenyiora, Justin Tuck, Kiwanuka, that front 4, that front 7, that's what won them multiple Super Bowls, in 07 and 11. That really, they're the Tom Brady killers. Like, that's how you disrupt stuff. And, their secondary was, they had a couple guys here or there. They weren't like what we saw with Seattle when they had Richard Sherman in them. They weren't the Legion of Boom. And I think that's what you're seeing is the emphasis on the front 7. I think the secondary will be fine at the end of the day. I think rush and cover works together, and it starts with the rush. How much stopping the run, how much pressure you can get up front, it makes the job of the secondary so much easier. So if they can generate that pressure, I think the pick totals will be there. I think it'll be a lot easier on that back half.
That's a great comparison, too, because how did they beat Tom Brady last year? With quarterback pressures. I think he was the most quarterback pressures he had seen in 6 or 7 years or something along those lines. I have a question for you. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. We could do it all day long. But how annoyed do you think Eddie Jackson is? Didn't he have like 3, 4, 5 different splash play turnovers, pick sixes, whatever they were called back by penalty last year? As a defensive player, how do you live with yourself? How does that work it out?
That's the worst feeling. So, as a defensive back, you make your money on picks, fumble recoveries for touchdowns, etc. Just like defensive linemen, you make your money on sacks. So, whenever it'd be a situation like somebody would get a sack on the defensive line and then there'd be like defensive holding, like people would just get so mad because at the end of the day, especially, for defensive linemen, I think secondary can get away with maybe the total not being there, as far as interceptions or et cetera, because it's based on how often they throw to you, how productive you are. Defense and defensive ends and especially are measured by how many sacks. I don't care. Robert Quinn had a great year last year. Does anybody care? No, because what's the number that was low?
Look at the sack board. Let me look at that.
Exactly. Yeah, but as a top player, that's what's important. That's what gets you paid, right? The year before he had 11. That's what got him paid. 2 sacks doesn't get you paid, right? 3 sacks doesn't get you paid. 5 gets you decent, 7 more, 8. Okay, you get 10. Oh, you pretty much get mostly what you want. And it even if it was a fluke year or whatever, 10 sacks gets you paid. And I think it's the worst when you get a defensive holding or it gets called back. Like it's the worst feeling in the world. You're like, oh my goodness, that's my money right there. That's my money.
And then you know what, man, Bears fans who I love, and there's so many of them, but some of them will then say, where was Eddie Jackson last year? Or he didn't show up, or he's not a playmaker anymore. It's kind of like, no, the dude was around the football. Like he's always around the football.
Oh, he's a ball hawk.
Those moments that just didn't work out.
Yeah, I think fans, and I love the fans. They're the reason why we got paid the big bucks.
Tell me, be honest with me. I expect honesty from you. Just be real with me. I need to learn.
I think a lot of times they just look at the numbers, right, of everything, right, and that's warranted, right. If you're a running back and you get 200 yards rushing the whole season, that's not a good season. But I think there's certain positions that is not measured by totals of things. I think it's measured more on your impact. And I feel like defensive back, you look at some of these years like Jalen Ramsey, some of these guys that really weren't throwing that much. They didn't have many pick totals or whatever, but they're regarded as the best. Like people are like, who's the best in the league? Him. Well, what about his numbers? It's just that type of thing. But I think when people see, the different things like, oh, he didn't have as many picks, he didn't have as many this, people say, oh, well, he had a bad year. And I'm like, I don't know about that. But
that's the thing they did to like Dion. You know what I mean? And you're like, well, that's because they'll never throw to Dion. They'll never throw over there. Like
they don't want that pick 6.
Yeah, like so we're going somewhere else. And I think sometimes with guys like Eddie Jackson, maybe you're trying to stay away from him. Guys like Khalil Mack, when you hear about double and triple teams, that stuff gets really hard when you get that kind of respect. And it can sort of hurt your numbers, but it doesn't mean that it can't affect the game.
Exactly. So I think people need to put more emphasis on impact, right? Watch the game and actually look how something impacted, and don't just look at the stat box. Don't look at, whatever I know you the guys love fantasy. That's why I'm a little against it, because I feel like it takes the fun out of watching the games. And some people feel like, oh, I'll just watch the clips, but you don't really get a full picture of the whole game watching just clips. You got to watch the whole game to understand. It's a body of work,
It's ruined a lot of stuff for me, especially when I'm watching Red Zone. I'm watching other players and stuff. I do have one rule though. I've never drafted a Green Bay Packer, and I never will, because I just don't want that. I don't want that in my headspace. I don't need it in my life. I don't want it in my heart. So just what's the point? I'll just never.
Yeah, you can't do that. No cheeseheads, right?
Never in 1,000 years. Let's get you out of here on this final one, Corey, on our first episode of the 2021 season of Believe in Bears. Let's go inside training camp right now. Take us back to the playing days.
Ooh.
I want to hear your top 3, 4, 5. When you walk into a training camp and you say goodbye to everybody else, maybe the girlfriend, maybe the family, maybe the phone, maybe the wife, the dog, whatever. What are the 5 things that you need with you in your training camp room that's going to get you through that time?
All right. So first off, you need the TV, right? You need your Netflix, whatever smart TV you got, get your HBO Go, your Showtime. You got to get all those essentials. And I think a big thing too is like, I think people are big like sweet addicts during training camp, right? Because you're burning so many calories and you're so stressed out about everything. You just want to eat like everything unhealthy. And like you don't gain any weight, you lose weight during training camp because you're working so much. So like you feel like you can just eat whatever you want, gummy bears, Swedish fish, Reese's, everything like that.
I got Reese's in my fridge right now. I know.
Yeah, exactly. You got to keep them cold, man.
Yeah, that's right.
That's something. And you need a comfy, big down blanket because it gets cold as heck in that dorm. That AC, it gets cold in there. They got one of those window units, and man, that thing gets cold. So you need that.
Yeah, I've heard you need. I've also heard for some people you need a fan sometimes. Like, but they pump the cold in there.
Oh yeah, they do. Some people, I don't know. I've never heard of a training camp, especially at the NFL level, where they don't put you in air conditioning. Maybe for the college stuff or high school, but in the NFL, they make sure you're taken care of. And then. Yeah, so that's 4 of them. What's the gaming system, right? Your Xbox, your PS.
Are you a gamer? Are you more like if you come home, maybe it's a 50-50, but what are you more likely to do? Are you a gamer or are you a movie guy?
I'd rather watch a show, a TV show. Like I used to be a gamer and play like, FIFA, the video game. Mm-hmm. But I feel like just as I've gotten older, like, it is like I feel like you don't have time for video games, especially having kids now. But like, in training camp, I feel like I'd play it probably the most I would all year because, you ain't got nothing else to do. But I feel like, yeah, I played it like the first couple of days. And then after a while, you get so tired, you just want to go to bed every night.
Yeah.
Like, my hands hurt. I don't want to,
I love playing video games. I'll do Madden. I love 2K and finally MLB The Show came to Xbox, which I'm very happy about. But, dude, I'm with you because as I get older, the best time to play video games is 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. And those just aren't efficient hours for me anymore. I'm either getting ready for bed or I'm walking the dog and getting, you know what I mean? Because I got to get up in the morning. And that time's been taken away from me. I'm never like at noon, like, let's play a video game. It just doesn't happen to me anymore. So
yeah, grown people don't do that. When you get older and you become a functional adult citizen.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a single dude, hey, that's your thing. You got time for it. But, like if you're married or you got a girlfriend or anything, any kind of thing that, takes up your time, like you're just not going to have time for it. And, I do have a couple of friends that are still into games. And I know that's kind of, an issue at times with the wife or whatever, but I think they manage it well.
Yeah, I got a buddy who had a baby shower recently. And they did this big list of like guess all the stuff about them, like get to know them, and they were like, "What's the one thing that he's going to be worried about?" And he said, "Was it the sleeping? Was it the diapers? Or was it he can't play video games anymore?" And he picked he can't play video games anymore. Doesn't care about the diapers.
Wow,
he just can't game anymore.
Some people, that's their thing, right? Like everybody has their thing. Like I love the golf and. Some people look at me like I'm crazy, like, oh, golf, that's stupid. That's this, you take up 4 hours of your day for doing nothing. I'm like, I enjoy it, So I get that people game. It's just not my thing, it's their thing. Golf's my thing. They call me Tiger Woods.
Do they? I love that. That's so funny. I mean, hey, man, over the last year and a half or 2 years, golf has been kind of a lifesaver for me personally. Last one for you, movie or TV show that you're watching?
So I've been watching Ted Lasso. Right?
I am too. Did you finish it? Are you caught up?
No, we're still on season 1, but that's a great show. A football coach becomes a football coach, right? Jason Sudeikis, hilarious. That's probably me and my wife's favorite show right now. It's like one of those feel-good shows.
It's such a feel-good show.
Yeah, it's dope. So yeah, I don't want to spoil anything. We don't spoil anything for the listeners out there, but if you have Apple TV, go and check it out. Ted Lasso, Jason Sudeikis, I'll tell you, that man is funny.
We started watching it 2 weeks ago, so I'm kind of on the same path that you're on, but we kind of ripped through it pretty fast. I'm a big Coach Beard guy. I love Coach Beard.
Yeah. He's funny, man. He is funny. When he took off his hat, I was like, whoa, what is that situation there? But hey, he's just on. You know how men get with hair, man. LeBron James, he still is trying to hold on for dear life, during the game, there's bald spots afterwards. He's looking smooth, so I don't know.
He should just go bald, man. Just accept it. Become that bald guy in life. He did the 4-layered headband for a while. I mean, like, I love LeBron, but it's like, come on, man, just let it loose.
Yeah,
just let it loose,
but guys won't let go. You know, they are very sensitive about hair. You know, and I feel like, especially like he would look fine with it, man. He's got a beard. You know, he's a basketball player. Like that's in his wheelhouse. You know,
Corey, man, I think this was episode 1 in the books, training camp style. I got to know you a little bit. Talk some Reese's Pieces, talk some Ted Lasso. You know, we're going to talk Brett Favre someday, listeners, so you guys make sure you stick around and check that out. But Corey, man, before we go, tell the good people how to follow you on all the socials, what you got going on with Fox 32 right now, because football season's right around the corner. They want to check out all your content. Yep,
you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Corey Wootten, COREYW, 2 O's, 2 T's, ON. And then also I'm on Facebook. And then I will be doing Fox 32 coverage this year for the Bears. So all season long. So I'm looking forward to it. Football is back, like we said. And I can't wait for the first game. You know, this preseason stuff is cool, but the regular season, that's where the big dogs eat. So I'm excited for it.
I know, I'm ripping days off the calendar myself. And dude, Corey, great to have you on board on the BLEAV team. I'm so happy and grateful that you are my co-host. Congratulations on the postgame with Fox 32. That's going to be amazing for you. And we're off. We're on our way. Going to be doing some episodes for you guys, breaking down postgame, doing a little pregame, bringing on some guests, maybe some celebrities. Who knows what happens? But we're going to have a great time this year in 2021 and riding the Justin Fields train. My name is Joey Christopoulos. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Joey Sports Guy. This episode of BLEAV in Bears was brought to you by BetOnline.ag. Go on your mobile device right now because you get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Today's episode is also brought to you by Balance 7 pH Supplement. Be well, be safe, be good to each other. Corey, sign us off.
Let's go. BLEAV in Bears, baby. Let's get it. It's a good first episode, man. Appreciate it.